Employers of Reddit, what is the most disturbing thing you've discovered performing a background check on candidates? I don't want to give too much details, because this story is quite specific and potentially humiliating for the person we didn't hire. We interviewed a young guy for a position, and I did the basic check with his former employers once they were shortlisted for the final interviews. All came in fine except one, where they asked to have a phone conversation about the candidate. I got a call from them wherein they explained that he'd actually been fired for repeatedly posting photos to the company Instagram and Twitter which contained hidden items that weren't meant to be in there. I pushed and pushed to find out exactly what they meant, and it turns out this person we were interviewing to manage our social media had been posting photos with his genitals hidden in the photos for months before his bosses had noticed. We did a background check on a guy who it turns out had sued every former employer for an on-the-job injury, usually right after 90 days, when most trial periods end. I did not hire him, but somebody else did, and I warned them that the background check showed at the 90-day mark he would try and get injured on the job and sue them. They took that to heart, and on the 92nd day, he showed up to work with a lawyer, claiming that his office chair had hurt his back, that the lights above his cubicle were giving him migraines, and his monitor was making his eyes hurt. The company responded prepared with their own lawyers, gave him an ergonomic keyboard, a monitor filter, and a special little area where the lights were better, and an ergonomic chair, and then they made it known that they would be contacting his former employers, many of whom he had sued, saying he was unable to work anymore. He stopped complaining and was let go in the next round of layoffs. Guy applied for a driver position with one of our senior care affiliates. Take elderly people on errands and to appointments, deliver meals, take clients to the center where they can hang out, etc. Not 1, not 2, but 10 counts of elder abuse with a side of attempted murder and theft. Rescinded that offer real damn quick. The isn't really disturbing, but a woman in her late 50s was applying for a minimum wage retail job and didn't put any past work experience on her application. When we mentioned performing a background check, she said she wouldn't pass and looked like someone had just sucked the life out of her. She went on to explain that she had been in prison for nearly 30 years for murdering her husband, which she did in self-defense. I was part of a group interview for a director position. The guy was cool, definitely qualified, and was breezing through the interview. Pretty funny too. I thought for sure he was in. We get to the end and ours is telling him about the process after if they were to offer him the position, and once they mention the background check he quickly responds that he wouldn't pass it. We all sit there in silence for a second, and he calmly says that he was charged with 3 counts of felony armed robbery, so likely wouldn't pass. Oh, I can win this one. We got somebody who failed a background check for selling planes to Iran. He broke the embargo imposed against them by the US when he tried to sell $117 million worth of planes. Like that wouldn't come up on a background check. That he had been convicted of a sex offense. He still got the job as he came into the office with a 15-year-old police report and court transcript, which explained he had got drunk during his first week at uni and took his pants off to take a piss in a fountain, and was found half naked by a lady the next morning asleep in the fountain. This was at a time that the police were being really hard on public nudity, and he did a stupid thing in the wrong place. Guy had a felony assault charge. Not disturbing in itself, but found out later it was from beating his previous boss face in after being confronted about coming in late to work repeatedly. The boss survived, but apparently had to have his face reconstructed. So yeah, hard pass on that one. My wife interviewed a candidate for a manufacturing job. She proceeded with background check and the FBI showed up within 20 minutes of her search. Wanted her to pretend to hire him and have the dude come in so they could arrest him. She said, no, I do background checks so we don't have a shootout in the parking lot. FBI arrest guy that afternoon at the address he put on his application. FBI could not tell my wife what the guy did, only that he was extremely dangerous and wanted under a closed/eyes only file. She also said some other candidate came in whose background check popped 6 counts of child molestation with a minor under 7 years of age. I was interviewing a guy for a manager position. and was planning on hiring him, mentioned that he'd have to do a background check. Straight out said he would not pass because of an armed robbery and assault charge. Seemed like a normal guy to me. Man applying for a job as a construction estimator. He owned a construction company and was convicted of defrauding various city and county governments. Pretty much the last person you'd want doing estimates. The next guy who applied was a registered sex offender. I was on a roll with that position. I called an applicant's reference and his former employer said, "I'm not allowed to comment on former employee performance. I can only confirm their start and end dates." "But why don't you ask me about the weather?" I said, "Okay, how is the weather there?" He replied, "The clouds are moving lazily across the sky and they are really dumb." I found out later that he stole this from a Dilbert cartoon, but he really did say it. I did a background check for one guy, and I found out that he had lied about every single job that he had. Going one job back, he claimed that he was a manager at a shoe store that went out of business. I was unable to verify that because the shoe store went out of business. Then he said that he was in the military for 4 years as a communication specialist. I found that he was in the army for 3 months, but got an honorable discharge because he couldn't make it through boot camp. He claimed before that he was the manager of the evening shift at a chicken plant. Turns out that he was a janitor for only a few months before he was fired for job performance. He claimed he was a manager of a hotel before that, and it turned out that his mother was actually the night manager and she was fired because she kept bringing her kid to work. I tried to do the math and I realized that if everything in the background check was true, that the applicant probably also lied about his age and had to be a lot younger than he claimed to be. He said he was in his late 20s, but I bet he was no older than 20 or 21. A couple of months ago I received a call from our manager that they were letting someone go and I needed to be ready to immediately kill their door card and all network/computer access. I was also asked to get hold of this employee who had been a contractor there for about 3 months or so, and we were going to bring them aboard as a FTE and have them go to the conference room. I ended up having to text the dude to get him where they asked me to. About 15 minutes later he was escorted off the premises by 2 of the bigger male managers, something that usually doesn't happen. I got a text from the guy as he was leaving that it was nice working with me. I thought it was weird, but when I inquired about how things went down I was told the guy escorted out didn't pass his background check. Apparently our company goes back way farther than the temp agencies did. BC he passed this. I think they didn't do one honestly. A few minutes after that I was asked by the head honcho at my site to Google him. I had never done it. I had absolutely no reason to, and I was immediately blown away. This guy was a full-blown child molester and CP collector/creator and was registered as a violent sex offender. He should never have been allowed near our site. We are next door to a school that is being built, so he legally could not have worked there once it was complete. Had the agency they got him through screened him appropriately. So I googled food a bit more and found a video of him on an anti-CP site of him in one of the restrooms at my site jacking off. It was like the 3rd link down when you googled his name. Because it was an anti-CP site, it was whitelisted in our URL filter. I had to go show ours. I thought she was gonna faint, and the next day the global president of ops calls me to send him the video, and I told him all due respect, but I do not think you want to see this. I took a screenshot of the site, and you know how YouTube videos sometimes freeze on places in the middle of the video when you see just the thumbnails of them before you play them? Guess what was the moment it froze? Yeah, the one nobody wants to see. About 5 minutes after sending the screenshot I got an email back from the ops pre saying you're right, I didn't need to see that, have that site blocked as soon as possible. Ironically it took several calls to blacklist the site, but Corpit did it. They own it when I sent the link to the video to my boss. When we were hiring contractors I would Google their names and phone numbers to see what I could find on them. One of the guys that applied was recently in jail for a few years for endangering the welfare of a child. The article stated that the police showed up at the home of him and his girlfriend to serve a warrant. Upon entering the home they saw that the entire place was swimming with raw sewage. There were dirty needles scattered everywhere. When they checked the back bedroom, they found 2 naked toddlers on moldy mattress that were surrounded by raw sewage. It made me physically ill to read. Needless to say, we did not hire him.